Today on Locked On Red Wings, Showtime finally shows up with the game winner as the offensive explosion comes from all around the lineup.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, while I am the color commentator for Oakland University, ACHA, D1 Men's Hockey. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
You're still laughing at yourself. It happened a minute ago. You're still
trying to
Brian,
I keep thinking
so
about
like
it.
when the
I didn't do nothing.
When the intro video plays,
you have
so everyone's
no
clear,
evidence.
There's like a backstage where it's just Brian and I, and obviously that video is not like happening. You're not watching that. It's like it puts us backstage on the website, and Brian just hits the worst stance moves you've ever seen in your life as we're waiting for the show to start, and it's just the worst. It's just awful, and
you have no
he's
evidence.
Really proud of his whip and nay today, and he's
really
finds it funny.
You have no evidence any of that happened. This is all, was it slander? If it's spoken word, it's all slander. And you're going to get a defamation lawsuit in the mail very shortly.
Okay.
Scotty, the Red Wings won 6-4 at LCA over the Philadelphia Flyers. And what a world to live in, Scotty, where back-to-back wins are enough to make me think, are we back? Because
are we back?
No, obviously I jest. It was a really fun game. It was great in some aspects. It was really rough in some others. And we'll obviously talk about it. These are the best type of games to break down when your team wins and gives you a lot to talk about within it. So we have a lot to get to. Without further ado, why don't we dive right in to this 6-4 offensive explosion? What was your first thought in this win over the Philadelphia Flyers?
Yeah, honestly, my first thought after the game ended was that this was a pretty dominant victory in terms of, maybe it didn't look like it in the score book, like 6-4 doesn't scream, pure and utter domination, but the defense was phenomenal. The 5-on-5 play was phenomenal. The goal scoring was phenomenal. We'll talk about the goaltending a little bit later, and the goals that they did let up obviously was the only thing preventing this from being a true, just, best performance of the season or anything like that. But I think that this was honestly one of, and I was really, really nervous when this game was 4-4. My thought then was, oh my goodness, the one game in which they put everything together, the goaltending is just going to absolutely fall over. Like and we had talked about that so often, right? We've talked so much about how it's always something. Like even the things that this team is good and bad at over stretches and over the course of the whole season, they will have a game where it's good, but then something they're traditionally good at will be awful for that game. Like they just can't do it. They are allergic to just having an entire, top to bottom team performance. And there's a little more nuance to it than that. Like,
right.
If every team played their best hockey in every single facet of the game, then, every night most NHL caliber teams would go 82-0, but like it has been a really frustrating season in that regard. And so I was nervous when it was 4-4. I was like, oh my goodness, the 5-on-5 play is amazing from like start to finish for the first time all year. Team defense looks great. We're scoring goals, and we're gonna lose because the 4 shots that the Flyers have like all gone in, and I was like, we're gonna find a way to lose, and I'm gonna be really frustrated and sad. So my first thought was really relief, and I think it was a fantastic top to bottom team performance outside of, again, the goaltending, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the offense was electric. Like they were getting grade A scoring opportunities and they were burying them, and that's not something that they've been doing at all this year. That was stuff we saw last year, right? Yeah. With the insane shooting percentage. I mean, they kept getting opportunity after opportunity to bury the puck. Defensively, it's weird. Like, I both agree and disagree the defense was good in this game. Like, overall, like, they allowed 9 shots through the first 2 periods total. Like, that's fantastic. But when you watch the goals that were scored, it's like 3 straight defensive lapses to allow, like, incredibly good opportunities against. So it's like a weird mixed bag where, they play a really good team defense in preventing shots and high danger shot attempts, but then they'll just randomly lapse for, like, a breakaway or a 2-on-1, and they get burned with a highlight reel goal. So it's just, like, it's kind of a weird mixed bag. But overall, I agree. Like, this was a solid performance. I still think they probably played the better team game against Toronto, simply just because that was a full 60 minutes against one of the league's bests. But, like, this was a game where they had to outgun an opponent, especially an opponent that kind of embarrassed them last week with Scott Lawton having 4 goals. And they had to come up and show up. And, this is a Philadelphia Flyers team that, they want to be considered on the same tier as, right? And so to do that, you got to start beating them in any fashion necessary. And this was a game where something you're traditionally good at kind of fell apart. Because I don't think Alex Lyon was particularly good in this game in his first game back from injury. But they were able to outscore their problem. So it was nice in that regard, too, that for once, something that traditionally goes well kind of fell apart, but they were able to overcome it with something that they don't typically do well, which is score goals. And they scored 6 in this one. 5, really, if one of those was an empty netter, so just 5 before the empty netter, which is incredible as well. So there is a lot of good in this game. There's also a lot bad, and so we'll talk about both. But either way, it was a really fun hockey game. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. Especially, it wasn't always fun on the ice either. Some of the fun was in the stands in the third period, and we'll talk about that too. That was wild. People are oohing and awing. I'm going, what's going on? I look over, I'm like, oh, that guy's got no shirt, and he's running up the stairs. All right. But as far as difference makers go, Scotty, I guess I should give you my first thought. My first thought was just kind of in line with that offensive explosion. 6 goals. They scored 4 against Toronto. Offense, back-to-back games. You go back to the game against the Buffalo Sabres as well, where they scored 5 in that one. So the offense is finally starting to pick up, and it was where the offense came from in this hockey game that encouraged me. You had Patrick Kane, who we literally just did an episode about, how he and Tarasenko need to get going.
We're good
and then
at
he
that.
shows up, scores, has a beautiful assist on DeBrinket's goal, and then the game winner. That was huge. In fact, he is my difference maker, so I guess I'll put that in here as well. There's some bad with that line, too. They gave up a lot of opportunities, too, but they popped off for goals 4, and that was desperately needed from Patrick Kane.
And that's what we've been asking for. Like, everyone knows that the Patrick Kane line is not going to be shut down. Like, we're all very well aware of that, but it is worth it to most people if he can produce offense. And that's been the frustrating part so far this year, is that he hasn't been, right? He's been providing neither defense or offense. And it's a trade-off that not only would we all take, but that the front office was very well aware of when they signed him to the contract this year and last year too. Like that just kind of comes with the territory, and it's worth it if he's putting up points. So very, very good to see for sure.
Right. And, obviously you want to see them, again, you're right. They're not going to tighten up defensively too incredibly much. That's just not how Patrick Kane plays hockey. So you put him in a position where he can flash his offense, and he did in this game. And that's what I want to see more of from Patrick Kane. That's more of the Patrick Kane we saw last season.
Right.
Like I said, I just would like to see they were analytically the worst line on the ice in terms of like shot share. That's just shots for versus shots against. Shot attempts 4, shots expected goals 4, but they scored 2 goals, so they were able to overcome it with 2 beautiful goals, the game winner and Alex DeBrinket's goal. So it was a give or take with that line, absolutely, but it's hard to not make him the difference maker when he scored the game winner, and we have been so heavily critical of his lack of production. So when he shows up with production in this game, it's hard not to point at that and say that guy made the difference in this hockey game. For you, Scotty, what do you got? Who's your difference maker?
Yeah, my difference maker, not as much in the score sheet, but again, kind of alluding to the fantastic goal prevention and shot prevention, I should say, not goal prevention, shot prevention in this game. I thought Seider was everywhere, and I thought he was fantastic. I know that this isn't, it's kind of weird with defensemen. I mean, I don't have to explain that to you, I know, but like, when we talk difference maker, very rarely are we talking about a defenseman that doesn't like fill the back of the net, right? Like those are few and far between. I think this was kind of the perfect case for a performance like that, and for a difference maker like that, rather. I thought he was fantastic, and I think, seeing him at the end of the game, and I know this isn't analytical or anything, but seeing him at the end of the game take a puck to the face and just pop up, go to the bench, get a new helmet, and go back out there was crazy, dude. Like he did not, go to the locker room. He did not really anything. Like, he didn't ask for help. The Flyers players were calling for like play to be stopped, and that makes sense strategically for them. But they were like starting to call somebody out on the ice or whatever, and he just popped right back up, went out, popped a new bucket on, and went back out there. Man, he's something else.
Yeah, in the interest of being fair too, right? Like, this is a game that analytically does not look favorably on Seider. He came near the bottom in almost every statistical category. But that is also in big part because, one, again, defenseman who's always given the toughest assignments, but then you lose Simon Edvinsson, and he does not come back. And we still don't have an update. Derek Malone said they don't have an update yet, which is terrifying. And I'm mentally preparing for the worst, that we could be losing Simon Edvinsson. But then, so they're playing with 5 D-man, Moritz Seider, and also shout out Ben Sherratt too, to a certain extent, because they played nearly 30 minutes of ice time in this game. Moritz Seider had 28 minutes of ice time in this game.
Yeah, dude.
2 minutes and 26 seconds on the power play as well.
Half an hour, man. Like,
Ben Sherratt had 29 minutes and 14 seconds of ice time.
He sure did.
Like, those two guys had to step up in a big way, and Lone gave them credit. So, like, you could even kind of expand that out. As much of the defensive lapses as they had in this game, to go down to 5 D-men and hold them to just that many shots, which I think they finished the game with, 24?
Yeah, the third period.
No, not even 19.
Yeah,
19 shots.
They applied pressure there in the third, but they through 2 periods had 9 shots. They had 9 shots with like 15 minutes left in the game. They had 9 shots.
Right. And it was an incredibly big ask of everyone on that D-corps. And obviously no one more so than Seider and Sherratt in this situation. And they rose to the occasion, locked it down, especially after the Kane got that lead again, and they did not look back. And so, no, I can't disagree with you for giving him a shout-out, giving him his flowers. I mean, we do it all the time. We love Moritz Seider on this podcast. Anyways, Scotty, let's head to our first break. When we return, we'll talk about notable performers, so stay tuned to Locked on Red Wings. Today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. If you love sports, you're going to love PrizePicks, the best place to turn your sports knowledge into real money. Whether it's hockey, football, or any of your favorite sports, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in on the action. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on PrizePicks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pickmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, PrizePicks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly. PrizePicks, run your game. Also need to talk to you about Select Quote, the World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics. The world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And that can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. Select Quote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. That's selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL today. Segment 2, Locked on Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, notable performers in this hockey game. I mean, there's a lot, right? I mean, they're outside of Kane, who's my difference maker. There was 5 other goal scorers in this that you could make note of. Any performances of those guys you want to focus on, or even outside that?
JT Compher, man. Obviously, he had the goal, but also had an assist. Like a 2-point night for Compher, I think, would go a long way. And I think for somebody who we are hoping for more point production for, and from rather, one game is not going to completely solve or change anybody's like big picture opinion on him necessarily, or on just the center situation as a whole on this team. But I think it really highlights how different this team's offense is when the people who have been given sizable contracts produce points, right? Like it's a whole different dynamic when you get depth scoring, I guess is my point. And I think Compher really highlighted that in this game. I was really impressed with him. And great defensively too, which we've obviously talked about a lot.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, JT Compher has scored 4 goals on the season, and I've been in the building for 2 of them. So you're welcome, first of all, Scotty. Second of all, that was a great power play goal. Just as impressive as that goal was for JT Compher and winning the positioning in front of the net, getting a stick on the ice for the redirection. That pass by Dylan Larkin to his stick was fantastic as well. Dylan Larkin, he hasn't scored in a while, I've noticed. I haven't seen Dylan Larkin goal scored by the Red Wings tweeted out a whole heck of a lot lately. But he's still... It's kind of the role reversal, honestly, of what was happening early in the season, where now it's Raymond feeding off of Larkin. And in this case, it was JT Compher. Of course, Larkin assisted on Raymond's empty netter as well, but 2 assists for the captain in this game, that beautiful shot pass, and then the face-off win by JT Compher right back to Michael Rasmussen. And that just kind of continues the point I started to make in segment 1 before I got derailed, because my brain just... it just goes off in all these different directions. Is the scoring came from everywhere in this game, and that's a huge area of need for this team, right? We talk about it. Your usual suspects are scoring. Raymond, Larkin's getting tons of assists if he's not scoring goals himself. You have Alex DeBrincat with another goal tonight, but you need the depth scoring to show up. So you said we would hope to get more scoring out of JT Compher, and I would take that a step further and say you need to get depth scoring out of JT Compher. Like, he has to be like a borderline, 15 to 20 goals a season. I'm not even asking for like elite level goal scoring, but he needs to provide good depth scoring. So for him to finally, just like Kopp did a few nights ago with his 2-goal game, like for Compher to finally kind of break through. I'm hoping, like you said, it's the start of something more. Michael Rasmussen got on the goal sheet again, so that's his 2nd goal in 3 games, because he got rewarded with that goal against Toronto, which
Petrie game.
I still don't know how that puck went off him against Toronto. I'd have to watch it. I don't know. But he got rewarded with the goal in the end anyways. The NHL says that's what happened, so that's what happened. You got DeBrincat scoring as usual. Joe Veleno on a beautiful play. He read that pass perfectly in the defensive zone to pick it off, to go down the other way on a 2-on-1 with Christian Fischer, and they finished the shot. You know how many 2-on-1s the Red Wings have had that have either just dissolved or not? And the Red Wings had a couple. That's how DeBrincat got that goal, right? Patrick Kane picked off a pass in the neutral zone. It was a great play. They come down on a 2-on-1, and they finished the shot.
Exactly my reaction too was, oh my goodness, they finished a 2-on-1.
So, like, I guess when you talking about notable performers, you could just really say the depth scoring in general. Like, I don't know if individually these players had great games for the full 60 minutes, but they showed up in big moments when the team needed them.
Yeah, and I think that is, I don't want to just talk in circles here, but I think that the depth scoring is something that we have greatly missed from last season and have been looking for this season, and that, in the last few games especially, as you pointed out, has been a lot better.
Absolutely. Also, Scotty, killed off a power play.
You know what? It's a Christmas miracle on December 18th.
Also scored on a power play. So special teams
actually pretty status quo. Yeah, they're not bad there, but
yeah. But there's not much to say about that, although there is something to say about the speaking of the roughing and the yikes. Well, I don't know what really happened there in the third period. Actually, I know exactly what happened because your boy was sitting right there. I could see it all. But there was that trip in the offensive zone and
flexing that you went to the game, like
absolutely, yeah, it was fun. I got to wear it. Do you like this sweater, by the way?
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. It's great.
Thanks.
I think it's just because you're so cute. I think that's what.
Stop! You're boosting my ego too much.
We don't need your head getting any bigger.
I don't know. Also look like yours.
That's fair. It's a fair point, but I don't think it will.
Probably not. The officiating in this game. So obviously the trip happened in the offensive zone, and I saw the trip happen, and so I immediately looked at the referee, and I saw his arm go like this. Like, it was that quick, but Urson was looking at that referee, and as soon as he saw that arm go down, he sprinted for the bench, and they sent a man on. But his arm went down, and so he's halfway to the bench, and I'm like, there's no penalty. The ref put his arm down, and so then they have extra man on the ice, so they get called for too many men, and Tortorella is livid, and justifiably so.
That was on TV. They showed Tortorella freaking out on the broadcast. Yeah.
And, like, it was crazy, like, just because, like, sitting where I'm sitting and the ref's arm going, like, up and down just as quickly. Right. It was nuts. And so he was justifiably angry because he should have had a power play. The Flyers should have had a power play because if the ref's going to stick his arm up, he's got to commit. You can't pull it back down half a second later. You can't. You got to commit. So he sends his guy out there, and now he might be getting a penalty for too many men because of the ref's mistake. And I think in the end, like, they did what they had to do. Like, you put your arm down, so you're saying it wasn't a penalty, but you also can't justifiably penalize the team for, seeing that signal and thinking that that's coming their way. Now, the penalty that happened right after that was just the most make-up call. They called Patrick Kane for a hook. I don't even think Patrick Kane's stick was anywhere near his hands. But they just called a penalty because they're like, well, now we owe the Flyers. And that's just peak game management. And that's when I tweeted out, I was like, oh, they're going to be hearing it from both fan bases after this one. That was some crazy officiating in the third.
You're telling me, brother? Yeah, I think that was honestly probably the most talked about thing from this hockey game. Well, nationally,
second most.
Yeah, nationally it is the most. I think locally there's another story we'll get to after the break here that probably stole the show. But
absolutely, we'll talk about that and defensive lapses in segment 3. So stay tuned. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. I didn't say it weird there. Why are you looking at me like that?
Dude.
What did I do?
It was like 70-30.
Oh, okay. 70 normal, 30 weird? Or
no, definitely not that. Yeah.
Oh, 70 weird, 30 normal.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
You should be used to that ratio. Weird.
Dude, you're in a
hundo. That's all right. That's why we love you.
I just love hockey, dude. Scotty.
What a response to being called weird. Yeah, you're a weirdo. I just love hockey, dude.
I love hockey.
That's real.
The defensive lapses in this game. Like, we talked a lot about depth scoring in this hockey game and how important it is for this team to score goals, like in general, right? But and as well as they were at keeping shots away from the net, the depth scoring, or the defensive lapses rather, in this hockey game are really hard to ignore. Jeff Petrie got turnstiled by Owen Tippett, and then Poling. I don't even know how to pronounce that name. That's bad on me.
One of those three was right, yeah.
The spin move pass he made for the backdoor goal where both Gus and Seider got pulled towards him. Like, the breakaway goal a minute into the game that Konechny scored. Like, it was just defensive lapse after defensive lapse. So it's, like, weird that, like, 95% of the game they can just play shut down, and then you just give up breakaways and 2-on-1s for allowing highlight reel goals. It was a rough game in terms of just big-time lapses.
Well, and it's so funny because that's so different from what we're used to with this team. Like, we're so used to You know what? Maybe, and I'm not saying they've done a great job at avoiding high danger this season, but like I remember last season talking about all the time, like they're giving up, 45 shots a night, but none of them are high danger. So it's like, like, and there are times this year where the goalie, whoever was in net, would stand on their head, and there would be a crooked number in the shots against column, but like the Wings would win, and they wouldn't allow too many goals. And this was just the opposite of that, where it was the few, and quite literally few, opportunities they did give up were high danger and ended up costing them, but they didn't give up that many opportunities. And the Flyers were circling with nothing. They didn't even hold possession really the first two periods at any point. It was really nice, honestly. Like I would take that 10 times out of 10. Like I think if Talbot's in net, like you're talking about like a 6-1 or 6-2 victory. Like I don't know. I thought that it was that was a nice change of pace, even if it wasn't the most beautiful thing ever, because it did end up being 6-4 still. I thought it was a really nice change of pace to see that style of defense as opposed to what we're used to.
Yeah, and you brought up about, well, if Talbot was in net, because this was Lions' first game back since injury, and I think that contributed too. Obviously, it's hard to look at a goaltending performance and say this is all your fault when the defensive lapses in front of him are terrible. Sure. But I also don't think it's unfair to ask your goaltender to, make more saves than 15 on 19 shots. Like he allowed 4 goals on 19 shots. That's a 7.89 save percentage.
He allowed
it's
4 goals on 9 shots. No?
When did that 4th goal go in? Was it with 9
that's
shots
what
on
I'm trying to remember. If the 4th was in the first half of the third period or at the end of the second. Either at best, it was 3 and 9. That's still 30%. That's still a third of 33%, right? A third of the goals, or a third of the shots that he allowed in through 2 periods. Like, so either way, I mean, yeah, it's I don't think it's unfair to ask for more.
No, absolutely. I mean,
but first one came back and he's been great. So
yeah, and it was a breakaway that they led up, right? Like that's a defensive lapse. Like Travis Konechny cannot be on a breakaway 1 minute into a hockey game.
The first goal of the game was ridiculous.
But it was also like it squeaked through his pad, through his 5-hole, and that's like the worst feeling goal to give up as a goalie is the one through the 5-hole, because that's the one spot like you're trained to defend the most. So for it to sneak through, that stings, and I thought it was a savable shot. I don't think that it should have gone in. The Noah Cates one, it's a wash. That was a really weird deflection. It hit Cates and bounced up in the air, and nobody knew where it went in until it was in the back of the net.
Right.
But like I don't think it's unfair of us to ask for a little bit more out of Lyon in this situation. But also at the same time, making note, like there were huge defensive lapses in front of him, so he shouldn't have been put into those situations. But I mean, a 7.89 save percentage just isn't good enough. So if we're gonna call, say you were really good when you're really good, we got to also call out a lackluster performance too, right, when there is one.
Lackluster performance by a fan. That was my attempt of.
I don't know about lackluster, man. We were loving it.
Well, yeah, maybe lackluster for him, not for everybody else. Yeah.
So there's a really the Detroit Free Press wrote an article about this specific fight, and they have a bunch of photos from Junfun Han that in the article, and of this photographer, great, just like of this shirtless man by the photographer, great instincts in the moment by the photographer to like immediately find this guy and just running up the stairs shirtless. Like, I don't know what kicked it off, but he started sprinting up the stairs. And then he like fell, and like I saw a Red Wings fan chase after him and throw a punch, and I think that's when all the ushers like circled him, and that was the end of it. But it was just like, the wildest thing. There's a picture in that Free Press article, Scotty, of the Red Wings celebrating a goal with that guy shirtless behind them, and it's just like,
it's awesome.
Let's go.
It's the best picture of all time. What are we talking about?
So it was really interesting. So,
to say the least.
It definitely added some spice. It's crazy to think that the highlight of the night didn't come from any of the 6 goals that were scored.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I go that far, but it's certainly, certainly added a little bit of spice to what was already a pretty exciting game.
Scotty, anything else from this game you want to mention? We forgot anything?
I don't think so, man. Happy birthday, Cat.
Happy birthday, Cat. Got that birthday goal.
Yeah, I think that's it, man. We ball. Good win.
We do ball. We'll be back with an episode tomorrow, previewing the weekend slate. So stay tuned. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.